You were just telling me it's been about 19 years since you bought this from your aunt. You and your wife were doing it. It's okay that I talk about this. And your wife is no longer with you here as of this year or last April. And you were just saying why you do this. Can you pick up on that again? Why you're still here?
And I've told my people that before. I said the only reason I'm still open is because of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I keep them working. They know it. We're family.
Yeah.
They know it. We got each other's backs. These people do anything for me, and I'll do anything for them. And they know it. That I would have, when my wife passed, I would have just retired and shut it down.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think about, the work that you do here? Because it's more than just your employees. I came here and I sat down and I felt like I sat in someone's living room.
Oh,
And I told you about how when I was a kid, my dad used to take me to work with him, and we would start the day by going out to breakfast in a place just like this. And there's not a lot of places like this around anymore. I mean, I love it. You have places now that are saying, hey, well, we don't accept cash anymore. And on your door, it says, we only accept cash. And I love that. When we sat down here and we see the trucks and the cars and the people coming in, and even the people here today, I sat down this morning at the bar and I had breakfast and I sat next to Art. And we talked about who would think that I'm sitting there at the bar next to a VP of a manufacturing facility that's done work for the Navy, for NASA, and here in this little restaurant in Superior.
Yeah.
Like, who would have thought that?
Yeah,
I mean,
we get all walks of life here. It just doesn't, we get executives, we get truck drivers, we get the police department, the fire department, everybody. I mean, from businessmen all the way down to off-work dishwashers. It's just everything.
So the men and women who do the work that make the country that we live in, that is so great, and that keep it running, they come here for breakfast. They come here. Tell me a little bit about your history. You said, there were years ago, trucks used to be lined up outside. Like, what was that like?
It was, some of it was before my time.
Yeah.
But back then, this place opened in 1950. And it was 24 hours. And that's all. You hear some of the older people come in and talk about.
And if you're listening, it's called The Kitchen. Yeah.
They would come in and they say, oh, I remember this at bar rush time and all that. And when I was younger, I delivered newspapers in the mornings.
Me too.
Oh, yeah.
I had like 3 newspaper routes when I was a kid.
I did too. I had bundles.
Yeah.
And I actually I would start, my mom worked graveyard shifts as a waitress. So when she came home at 3 o'clock, she would wake me up and I would go pick up the papers.
Yeah.
And I was underage.
So was I when I started.
And she knew pretty much all the police that worked nights. And the one officer kept telling her, tell Ed he can't start that early. So I would hide in the bushes when he'd drive around, and he'd look for me, but he couldn't find me.
Yeah.
But I would be walking down the street, and the highway would be lined with parked grain trucks. Waiting to get down to the elevators.
Wow.
And we're talking for almost a mile. It was insane.
Wow.
And they would come here. There was a light that used to be up at the top, and that like a blue light.
Yeah.
And it would be flashing so the guys knew where to go.
Wow.
And it's
like the original GPS.
Yeah. And it changed. They had a wildcat strike, and then the elevators, and with all the different, with the trains and stuff. So, it's changed. But you'll hear guys talk about it.
Yeah. So why do you think, why is work so important? And when I say work, I'm covering all the trades and just the things that, thank you, Donna, just the things that we take for granted. Like, we live in this culture, in this society, and we kind of look down on work. We kind of look down on, what it is to put a tool belt on or to get in a panel truck and go provide a service, or even driving truck. I don't think that we realize the importance of how that is the oxygen, the blood, the breath of our country and how it operates. Why do you think that's important, Ed?
Well, that's what built everything. I mean, everything was from that moment.
Yeah.
I mean, same thing when you were brought up with your dad going to the stuff. I was brought up the same way.
Yeah.
You know, work, work, work. You get what you...
Yeah. You get what you put
Yeah.
into it. Absolutely.
And like I said, I was working before I was technically legal to work.
Yeah.
And as long as I don't complain about it and my folks didn't complain about it, we got away with it.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think that the kitchen brings to these people that come here? Because it's pretty clear that they're pretty comfortable.
Oh, yeah.
Like I would bet, like when I say Art, you know who I'm talking
Yeah.
about.
Oh, yeah.
And I would bet you could probably name most of the people in
Most
this
of the people
room.
in here. And then the ones that we don't, my wife and the other waitresses that have been here for a length of time, they'll start describing somebody and they don't necessarily know the name or they're trying to figure it out, but they will say the one that has the ham and cheese omelet with hash browns with fried onions and muffin toast. And
Okay,
we'll
that
know
sounds
right
really
away.
good. I think I might want that.
We'll know right away who it is. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think the kitchen brings to these people?
I guess I'd say an at-home feeling, because that's
Yeah.
what they always talk about.
Yeah.
They talk about, I feel like I'm at home. Sometimes it's good,
Yeah.
sometimes it's not. Because they,
If you're chasing them out with the frying pan and they feel like they're at home, then it's probably not good.
yeah, and they said, man, I get treated like I was at home.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what they like. We have people that come in. We have this customer that comes in. During COVID, she got COVID really bad.
Oh.
And she got really, she didn't even like being at home. She
Yeah.
just felt something wrong. But she come here, and it was like her sanctuary.
Yeah.
And now she comes in, and if she's sitting here and we're really busy, she'll see somebody standing by the door, and she'll wave them over, and she has them sit with them.
Come on.
Yeah.
Don't
And
you
that
think?
happens all the time.
Well, I mean, I think isn't that it? Like, don't we need community? I think that's one of the things that was actually when we lived through COVID, and this is my opinion, but it was more devastating, I believe, the separation and isolation to people
Yes. Yep.
than the disease itself.
Yep.
And I might get some flack for making that statement, but the reality is, I think we're made for this community. We're made to talk with people. You and I were talking earlier when I was sitting at the bar with Art, and just about how people don't talk to each other anymore.
No.
They don't communicate. They don't have those conversations. And why do you think that is?
I think they lost all track of that.
Yeah.
And I hate to
You can say whatever you want.
I hate to put it out there, but the younger generation, I really hate it when I call people younger, but they've lost all that. The older workers, like these guys that are in here, the blue collars and all these people that are in here day in and day out. Sometimes a couple of them, this gentleman over here, he comes in 2 times a day.
2 times a day. That
At
would
least.
be me.
He comes in, he works over at the Goodwill and stuff, and they feel that camaraderie, they feel that homeliness, they feel welcomed here. And the younger, I hate doing it, but they just, I don't know if they're brought up that different.
Well, let's talk about that. Like the thing that's part of why we're having this conversation, because it's going to exist on all of the platforms that they're on. And I would say, so I work in construction in the trades, and we are dealing with an epidemic of losing knowledge, losing trade skill, losing, I remember when I started in the trade and we would have a new guy coming up, and some guys would be like, Well, he either has that construction or trade knowledge or he doesn't. And there was an old timer that told me once, he goes, well, whose fault is that? And I was like, well, what do you mean? And he goes, are you taking the time to teach him? Are you taking the time to talk to him? And so when we talk about young people and how they're distant from it, and I love my dad, but one of the things that I would say that happened with work and even in was a lack of, I think, intentionality. And it's what I mean by that. He was so focused on providing for us. He was so focused on doing the work. I had to work to learn and pick up things from him because it was like, well, why do you do that, Dad? I asked a lot of questions.
Yeah.
But not everybody's wired that way. And so with the young people, don't we bear some of the responsibility for where they're at?
Yeah. We don't take the time, like you would say, train them right.
Yeah.
Communicate with them to explain this is why we do it this way, or this is a shortcut. We know how, and they don't do it, so they feel like they're falling behind.
Yeah.
For the ones that want to work.
That's a really good statement.
Work.
They feel like they're falling behind.
Yep.
And I think that's also something that in culture in our society we've done. So many people are graduating high school and they're like, oh, I need to get ahead. I need to figure it out. And it's like I was talking with Art, and he's the vice president of a pretty large manufacturing facility here in Minnesota. And I asked him, I said, well, how did you start? And how did you, and he started as like an accounting clerk, the bottom of the rung. And I said, well, how did you end up, at 72 years old being vice president? What was your career path? Because that's what a young person would ask. And the answer was really interesting to me. He goes, I did the work.
Yeah.
And what would your advice be to young people that might be listening to this? Like, you've been here 19 years, and in October it's going to be 20 years. So congratulations for that. That's a big deal. What would you say to people? Like, you've put some time in here, and I'll ask you this. Do you feel like you missed something? Do you feel like you've done the hard work and you've been here? Do you regret this?
No, not a bit. Not a bit.
And I guess my question with that is, isn't it because of the work? And when we do the work, how we feel after we work hard?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Like I've been doing the kitchen work for 44 years.
44 years?
Yeah. I started in 1980 and as a dishwasher.
So that's longer than I've been alive.
And worked my way up. Well, that also tells how old I am. But, and I moved.
Right.
I got on a different company and I helped open places. I took my wife and her kids before we were married. I moved everybody. They've never been out of this town. And we moved all the way to South Dakota.
Wow.
And that was like, they were like, ooh, those kids were not happy. But now, that's all they thank me for.
Yeah.
Because I got them out of this to see what the rest of the world works. And it's not been easy.
Yeah.
The work is hard. Some days you're like, why am I doing this? Thankless, whatever.
Yeah.
But that's the way we were brought up.
Yeah.
And my kids are that way now. They all work, and they work hard. And hopefully, they look at, see what we did and how we worked and how we did stuff. And I think that's what the kids nowadays need to know. It's not, I get out of school, and I know a lot of them expect that, and it's really sad. My one son was that way. When they graduate high school, they expect to get a good paying job, top dollar, and not have to work for it.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, don't you think that part of that is, like I was telling you at the bar when I was like, 8 or 9, maybe 10 years old, is when my dad started taking me to work.
Oh.
And we would come to restaurants like this. It was like, and I didn't go with him every day, but it was like he would take me along to work, we'd come to we'd have breakfast, and then we would go out on the job, and it was like I got to see and be exposed to that and experience that, and it's like, don't you feel like over the past, I don't know, decade, maybe 2 decades, we've slowly insulated our kids, we've slowly insulated people from what work is. Like, I work in construction, and there's a contractor, and I've always been what you call a specialty contractor. Like, I'm not a general contractor or anything like that. I work for them. And there was one general contractor that I worked for where they would wear, and there's nothing wrong with this, but they would wear 3-piece suits, nice shoes, and they would talk to whoever the client was, and they're like, well, we want to keep you away from them, those workers. And it's like, don't you think that's what people need to be more exposed to?
Yeah.
Is the people that are doing the work?
Yeah, they want to see that. They want to know exactly what is happening and what.
Why do you think that matters so much?
It opens their eyes.
Yeah.
I mean, because like you just explained, keep you away from that. Well, they're going to start thinking, are these some Neanderthals?
Yeah.
Are they going to be using foul language? Are they going to be doing stuff they're not supposed to? I mean, it almost looks like it would scare them.
Yeah.
But if they can go in and mingle and watch the guys, they could ask questions, or they could see how things, like if it's their house being built, they can see how this came about or how this came about. And I think that would give them more in tune of what's like, wow, look what they have to do. When I went working for the other companies and we had opened, they would be building the restaurants, and I would go in every day and I'd walk around and talk to the workers like that, the electricians and the plumbers, because my dad was a plumber.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing when you're watching these guys and what happens if something goes wrong, how the adversity and what they have to do to fix it, and how they
the problem solving.
How they deal with it. And they wouldn't really miss a beat.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was like, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I think that's one of the big things that work teaches you is just the ability to problem solve. Because life is all about problems. They're going to come, and the ability of how do you pivot, how do you get around it, how do you figure it out, what do you do? Well, the other thing I just want to ask you related to work, sometimes work is hard, and you mentioned how sometimes, you don't want to come in or you don't want to do this, and I imagine that this year you might have had some days like that.
Oh yeah, I had a lot of them.
Yeah. And so what is the thing that what is it that makes you do the work? What does it make you that push through the hard times to keep doing the work?
The way I was brought up, but here it's like very seldom. I mean, we have regulars every day. Every day the same people. Some of them you can set your clock by.
Yeah.
But I always heard thank you.
Yeah.
Or great meal. I don't know how you can do it at those prices. Awesome. This is great. I mean, constant you're hearing compliments.
Yeah.
And I hear it about my employees, and I hear about, everything. They enjoy it because, it makes me feel like home.
Yeah.
For all the adversities that I went through this year, that makes up for it.
Thank you, Don.
That makes up for it. All these people here make up for it.
Yeah.
So that's why I do it.
We started with that. It's about the people. And I think the biggest thing that I recognize is, cell phones didn't exist when my dad started taking me to restaurants like this. And we've gotten away from talking to people. We've gotten away from having conversations. And, I would challenge people that are listening or watching, leave your phone in your car.
Yep.
The crazy thing is, an hour away from your phone, the world isn't going to disappear. And if it does, chances are you're not going to do anything about it anyway.
That's right.
You're not that important.
That's what we were talking about. And I think that's part of the problem.
Yeah.
With the younger generation. It's that phone.
Yeah.
And problem solving isn't hands-on thinking.
Yeah.
I'll go on and I'll Google it and it'll tell me how to fix it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I have fallen into that back home in
Yeah.
my house.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how to do this, and my son says, well, YouTube it. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And boom. It's nice, but it takes away
Yeah.
the thought process in a
Yeah.
roundabout way. Because now you just got to sit and look at this. I mean, but it does save, there is some good for it.
Yeah.
But people are getting too wrapped up into social media.
We have to be intentional about it.
Yeah.
We have to be intentional about it.
I'm guilty.
Me too.
Oh, yeah.
Me too. And I think it's not just, the fact is the young people follow us and they do what we do. And if we aren't, like, I love my dad, but if we're not intentional in saying, hey, this is why I do this, this is how I do this, and this is why I don't do that. And that's what we're talking about here. So if I'm doing this right, you just finished listening to a conversation with Ed and myself from the kitchen in Duluth, Minnesota. When we started that conversation, I was telling Ed how my dad used to take me to diners like that in the morning before we would go to work. So it's rather fitting that here I am out on a job site closing out this podcast with you. Ed talked about why he does the work that he does. One of the underlining themes, I believe, for him was the people that he works with. That's why he does it. His wife died, life happens, things go on around you, but the people that you work with play a huge role in where you work and why you work there. One of the things that I've experienced over the years is, don't get me wrong, money's important. I want to make money. But the people that I work with sometimes actually drives way farther in my desire to be somewhere and doing a job is because of who else is there. We spend most of our time with people at work. I have a wife and children, and I love them very much, but I don't spend nearly as much time with them as I do with the people at work. And so the importance of being a part of a culture or a business that you align with, that you share their values, that you believe what they're doing and why they're doing it, that is a huge effect, I believe, in job satisfaction. It is for Ed. You know, when we talked with Ed, that was in Duluth, Minnesota, and it's a part of the country that I don't think we realize all of the things that the men and women that work in the trades in that area provide for the rest of us. We don't realize when there are road workers on the road, when there are machines digging and building, we don't realize what goes under the ground. We don't realize the work that's done that we don't see. We just enjoy the effects of it. If you're a tradesperson, you're one of those people. So from Ed and myself, we both thank you for that work. Thank you for doing the work each and every day. So today, as you are probably driving to your job site or your office or whatever it might be, and you're listening to this podcast, remember why you do the work. Remember who it is that you work with. And if you aren't in a culture or a job that you enjoy the people or the culture, that there isn't something beyond just a paycheck, then maybe think about other options. Maybe think about where you want to be. But as you go out there, remember, continue to do the work. Don't quit. So many people get to a certain point and they give up and they miss out right before they have an opportunity for victory. So many people quit at the moment when they should press in and go farther. So today, don't quit. Be the man in the arena. Be the woman in the arena. Be the one that your face is marred with blood, sweat, dirt, and tears. Be the one who is building a future for tomorrow through the work that you do. Step up to the line today. Be the one to change your culture. Have a great day.